Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2006 horror remake, Black Christmas. The film is co-written and directed by Glenn Morgan, and it stars Michelle Trachtenberg, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Lacey Chabert, Katie Cassidy, Kristen Cloak, and Andrea Martin. Now, this is the remake of the 70s classic slasher from 1974, Black Christmas. And it focuses on it's Christmas Eve, and there's like an escaped maniac, Billy, is returning to his childhood home. This childhood home is now occupied and being used as a sorority house. He gets his way in there, and he begins taking out the sorority girls one at a time. Right, what are my thoughts on Black Christmas? Well, I have seen the original from 1974, but it's a long time ago, so I will probably likely rewatch that for the channel and review it. And I'm also aware that that the original Black Christmas has had two remakes. We've got this one, and I think one that came out about 5 years ago, maybe something like that. So it's one of those rare horror films that's had two remakes. I'm not sure I'll check out the other remake. It's not got very good reviews at all, but out of curiosity, we'll see. I may well do that. But as Christmas horror films go and slasher films, this is not what I would describe as a bad film. It's just one of those. I mean, and there were so many of these in the noughties, like horror remakes that were just kind of cookie cutter, paint by numbers, ticking boxes. Very little originality and creativity here. And I do think they got some things right. I think this film needed, because it's narratively, it's all over the place. I think the film needed a prologue rather than flashbacks. So we get to learn the story of Billy, but through flashbacks with other people telling the story. And I think the first 20 minutes or so of this film should have been a full prologue, if you like, of Billy's story, and how he kind of got sent to the insane asylum. Because for me, that was the best part of the film when we saw that in the flashbacks. And it needed more of that, is what I'm saying. Now, when we get to, the sorority house and the sorority girls, and my understanding is, I think the actress that plays like the one who's in charge of the girls, the mature woman that looks after them, I think she was in the original. I'm sure I read that somewhere when I was kind of preparing for this review. But I mean, we've got quite an impressive cast here. You've got Michelle Trachtenberg, who I'm right in thinking I think has passed away since. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Katie Cassidy, Lacey Chabert. A lot of these actresses were fairly known at the time, and certainly some of them are quite known now, obviously. And I just felt they were completely wasted, this cast, for the most part. They were literally just cannon fodder, or, meat for the meat grinder type of characters. And it was so obvious, where the film was going in regards to the so-called surprise at the end. It was painfully unoriginal, and it was so predictable from my perspective. They didn't. I don't feel as though they did enough. Now, I have to be completely honest here. I can't remember a great deal about the original, but this certainly felt like it followed the beats of that. But I'm not sure it made any significant, what you would describe as changes here. I thought the idea of this Billy worked really well, and again, I just felt they misused it, this character, and the whole way he escaped at the beginning was beyond ridiculous, really, and it was about as believable as Santa. Well, if any of you are watching this, Santa is real. who, you know, I'm not saying he's not real, but to some people he might not be surreal. And the way he got out of prison at the beginning was about as real as those people that think Santa's not real. Yeah, it didn't work, did it? But I mean, there are some fun kills here. I do have to say that I thought there were some fun moments in the film where the kills were fun and interesting. And I'll be honest, I have definitely have seen worse slashers than this. But it just kind of, again, there were so many of these films in the noughties, horror remakes and slasher films after obviously the Scream craze where everybody was interested in doing slashers again. And then with the success of certain horror remakes, everyone thought, well, let's do a lot of slasher horror remakes. You know, we don't have to put any thought into that, do we? And that's what this feels like. It's like, okay, we don't really have to put a lot of thought into this. You know, the last one was 1974. We can get away with doing this. And then, you know, it felt like minimal effort was put into actually creating an interesting story and certainly creating interesting characters, because none of them really were. They were, like I said, just there to be put in the meat grinder. So yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike the film. You know, I just felt narratively it was way off. The flashbacks didn't work. It needed a prologue. It needed some stronger characters here. It needed a bit more invention and a bit more creativity. It just felt like, you know, I mean, these days we'd be saying, "Oh, it's like AI has come up with this sort of thing," and that's how it feels. It feels like, you know, someone's put in a few ideas and a computer pressed a button and it's just spat out. This film with, you know, unoriginal dialogue, some typically dislikable characters that you would see in a sorority house. You know, you're kind of like, well, you know, they don't have to follow that pattern that you see, sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, there are some fun moments in it. There are some fun kills. There was moments of potential, and it does feel like there was a missed opportunity here. I think they could have done something considerably better with, you know, the material that they had. I think there was a lot more they could have done. But as we, you know, we get a middling Christmas slasher film. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Black Christmas. I may well check out the other remake that came out 2020 or whenever it was, and I will definitely probably revisit the original because it's such a long time since I saw that. I think I was probably a teenager when I last saw that. So let me know your thoughts on Black Christmas. Let me know your thoughts on the original and the other remake if you've seen them, and I will see you back here on the channel with plenty more content very, very soon.